The glass shattered at my feet, and before I could even breathe, her voice cut through the mansion like a whip. "Don't just stand there. Clean it. That's what you're here for." I was on my knees, surrounded by broken crystal, my fingers trembling, my heart pounding so loudly I was sure everyone could hear it. And in that moment, as blood mixed with water on the marble floor, I realized something painful. In this house, I wasn't human. I was invisible. My name is Naomi, and this mansion, it was never meant to be mine. I started working at the Harrington estate when I was 22, young, desperate, and carrying dreams too heavy for empty pockets. The mansion stood on a hill, white walls shining like it belonged to another world, iron gates, perfect gardens, silence that smelled like money. The first rule they taught me? Maids don't speak unless spoken to. Mrs. Harrington liked her tea at exactly 7 a.m., not 6:59, not 7:01. If it was even a second late, she'd look at me the way people look at dirt on their shoes. Her daughter, Lydia, was worse. She smiled when guests were around. Sweet, polite, perfect. But when the doors closed, "Oh, look," she'd laugh, "the help thinks she belongs here." Every laugh landed like a slap. I cleaned rooms bigger than the house I grew up in, polished mirrors that reflected a version of me I didn't recognize, head down, shoulders curved, eyes tired. Sometimes, late at night, I'd pause in the hallway outside the grand dining room. The chandelier would still be glowing, the table set for people who never noticed who cleaned up after them. I used to whisper to myself, "This isn't your forever. This is just your survival." But survival gets heavy when humiliation is daily. One afternoon, while dusting the library, a room I wasn't even supposed to be in, I felt something strange. Eyes on me. I turned around. A man stood near the door, tall, calm, dressed simply but confidently, not flashy like their guests. His presence felt solid. "Sorry," I said quickly, panic rising. "I didn't know anyone was here." He smiled. Not the polite, empty kind. "It's fine," he said. "You're doing your job." That sentence shocked me more than the broken glass earlier. You're doing your job. Not maid, not girl, not help. Just human. Before I could say anything else, Mrs. Harrington's voice echoed down the hall. "Naomi, why are you wasting time?" The man's eyes darkened slightly. He looked at me once more before leaving, and for reasons I couldn't explain, my heart told me that moment mattered. That night, as I lay on my thin mattress in the servants' quarters, I stared at the ceiling. I didn't know who he was, I didn't know why his presence felt different, but I knew one thing for sure. The mansion that broke me was about to change my life, and not in the way any of them expected. The next morning, Mrs. Harrington called all the staff together. Her voice was cold, controlled. "We have an important guest arriving today," she said. "Anyone who embarrasses this family will be gone." As she spoke, the front gates opened, and my heart stopped because the man from the library stepped out of a black car and everyone bowed. The moment he stepped onto the marble floors, the air changed. It wasn't just the hush that fell over the staff. It was something deeper, something heavy, something that made every polite smile at Mrs. Harrington feel fragile, forced, meaningless. He moved slowly, scanning the room, his eyes landing briefly on me, not with judgment, not with pity, but with recognition, and that alone made my chest tighten. I swallowed my fear, straightened my back, and whispered to myself, "Survive today, survive today." The Harringtons moved like predators. Mrs. Harrington's greeting was flawless, smiles, words dripping politeness, but there was ice underneath. Her daughter Lydia twirled near her mother, a perfect echo of that cold perfection. I tried to stay invisible, but in a house this quiet, invisibility is noticed. "Naomi," Mrs. Harrington snapped suddenly, the sound slicing through the air. "Tea, now." I dropped everything, tray, cloth, nerves, scrambling as quickly as I could, and then he said my name. "Don't rush her," he said. Calm, deep, with a weight behind it that silenced even Mrs. Harrington for a second. My hand froze around the teapot. Every muscle in my body screamed at me to run, but I didn't. The way he looked at me, it wasn't patronizing, it wasn't commanding, it was noticing. He stayed that day, watching the mansion unfold like a stage play, and somewhere between the glass polishing and the silver dusting, I realized he was more than just a guest. He was a storm waiting to crash this perfect world. That night, I snuck a glance at the guest log. His name was Alexander Reed, CEO, billionaire, someone who moved entire industries without blinking. And yet, in his eyes, he had paused for me. Me. The realization was terrifying and intoxicating. By the third day, he began speaking to me directly. Small things at first, a nod, a smile, a question about the flowers in the hallway. Nothing anyone else in the house would have dared. And then came the first test. Mrs. Harrington had a dinner party. Everyone polished, shined, served, and bowed like trained soldiers. I carried the first tray of drinks, careful to keep my hands steady, to keep my heart hidden. "You've got clumsy hands, Naomi," Lydia whispered when she passed by. "Do try not to spill anything in front of him." Her laugh was soft, sly, but venomous. I nearly dropped the tray, but Alexander caught my eye. He didn't scold, he didn't laugh, he merely raised an eyebrow, tiny, just enough, and nodded. I didn't know what it meant at first, then I realized approval. The night ended with whispers and laughter, champagne spilled on white silk, and my hands stained from the work I was told would never be noticed. But he noticed, and that changed everything. Looks at her, not like the others. And with every whisper, my heart swelled, and my fear grew, because in this house, noticed was dangerous. That night, I heard the faint click of the guest room door. I peeked through the crack of the kitchen. Alexander was there, pacing slowly, muttering under his breath. And then he stopped, turned, and said, "Naomi, I need your help tomorrow, alone." Alone with him the next morning, my legs threatened to betray me. Every fiber in my body screamed, "This is a mistake." But my heart, stupid, reckless heart, beat faster than fear. "Why me?" I asked, whispering as he led me into the library. "Because you see this house differently," he said, eyes scanning the room. "Everyone else, they see rules, they see fear. You see people." That struck something inside me, something I hadn't let myself feel in years. Validation. We started small. He asked me questions about the household, the staff, even Lydia's habits. I answered cautiously, aware that my every word might be overheard, misinterpreted, or used against me. But he listened, really listened. By the end of the day, we had a plan to expose the cracks in the Harrington empire. Small ones, subtle ones. He didn't ask me to steal or lie, just to watch, to notice, to report. And slowly, the mansion started to feel less oppressive. Mrs. Harrington noticed the shift first. She scowled at me during breakfast, tried to snap her authority back into place. "Naomi, the silver," she barked. I handed her the tray without trembling. Her glare faltered. Lydia was next. I caught her watching me, confusion in her perfect smile. She didn't understand what was happening, and that confusion, that tiny crack in her armor, gave me courage I didn't know I had. Alexander stayed in the background, pulling strings, leaving me to do the visible work. But every time he nodded at me, every time he whispered, "Good," I felt powerful. Power. It was intoxicating. By the third week, things changed more drastically. Reports went missing, parties ran late, secrets spilled in corners no one thought anyone could see. And everywhere, Alexander's presence hovered like a shield over me. One night, I overheard Lydia crying in her room. She blamed me for a mistake I didn't make, and for the first time, I didn't apologize. I walked out of the room, shoulders back, heart steady, and for the first time, the mansion didn't feel like it could crush me. Because power, as I was learning, always comes with a price. And that night, when I returned to the servants' quarters, I found a note slipped under my door. If you want to survive this house and change it, trust no one but me. Meet me at midnight. Midnight arrived, silent as the grave. I crept through corridors, careful to avoid creaking floors, shadows, and the prying eyes of those who believed they owned the mansion. Alexander waited in the grand hall. Candlelight flickered against the walls, casting shadows that danced like secrets. "You're ready," he said, simply. I nodded, though my heart still thudded in my chest. The plan was simple, yet audacious. Every injustice, every insult, every humiliation that had been piled on me, we would turn it into leverage. Mistakes exposed, lies revealed, power shifted. And me? I wasn't invisible anymore. The Harringtons didn't know it yet, but the world they had built on appearances, perfection, and control was about to crumble. Dinner parties became stages for exposure. Servants became allies. Mistakes weren't hidden. They were strategically unveiled. And with every move, my confidence grew. My fear shrank. Finally, the day came when Mrs. Harrington confronted me. "You," she began, voice tight with anger and disbelief. "How—" I looked at her, calm, controlled. For the first time, not trembling. "I saw everything," I said simply, "and I did what needed to be done." Lydia tried to smile, tried to pretend nothing had changed, but I saw her. The girl who had laughed at me, the girl who had thought power was inherited. She was powerless now, staring at someone she never thought could rise above her. Alexander appeared beside me, silent, commanding, confirming everything with a look. The mansion had changed hands, and I was no longer just Naomi, the maid. I was Naomi, the woman who survived, the woman who observed, the woman who took control when no one expected it. And as I walked through the grand doors, finally free, I realized this was never about wealth, titles, or mansions. It was about respect, recognition, and reclaiming my place in the world. For the first time in years, I smiled without fear. The mansion had broken me once, but now I was unstoppable. Comment below, which part of Naomi's journey resonated with you the most? Don't forget to like if you believe in rising above every obstacle. Subscribe for more stories where the underdog fights back and wins.